What up, YouTube? Here with a post-fight video of the Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou fight. Now, before I give y'all a summary of what happened in the fight, I'm going to tell y'all the results first. Tyson Fury was able to win this fight via split decision. Yes, that's correct. Split decision, not a unanimous decision. One of the judges actually had it in the favor of Francis Ngannou, and Francis Ngannou also was able to score a knockdown in this fight, while Tyson Fury did not drop Francis Ngannou throughout the whole fight. And this fight wasn't a 12-round fight. This was a 10-round fight due to the fact that Tyson Fury's WBC heavyweight title was not on the line. This was more like an exhibition bout, a money-making attraction bout put on in Saudi Arabia with the current WBC heavyweight champion Tyson Fury, who's been the guy at heavyweight ever since he defeated Vladimir Klitschko a few years ago to end Vladimir Klitschko's legendary unified heavyweight title reign. And then after defending the unified heavyweight titles a few times, he retired because he was battling alcoholism and depression. And once he came out of retirement, he had that trilogy rivalry versus Deontay Wilder. And the first fight ended in a draw. And that was a statement maker for Tyson Fury to let the boxing fans know that he's back. And in the second and third fight, where he didn't leave that fight in the hands of the judges, he avenged that controversial decision draw that he had in the first fight versus Deontay Wilder, and he TKO'd Deontay Wilder in the second and the third fight. And when he defeated Deontay Wilder in the second fight, that's when he once again became the WBC heavyweight champion. And Francis Ngannou, he was the UFC heavyweight champion. However, due to disagreement with him and the UFC when it came to his payout on his contract, he decided not to re-sign with the UFC. And he hasn't fought in, I believe, over 2 years. His last fight was when he defeated Cyril Gane via unanimous decision to successfully defend his UFC heavyweight title, which he won from the rematch that he had versus Stephen Miocic, where he knocked out Miocic. And after his fight versus Cyril Gane, his contract expired with the UFC, and because they couldn't come to an agreement, Francis Ngannou had decided to sign a multi-fight deal with PFL, I think. However, he hasn't had a fight with PFL or any other MMA promotions. And his first fight back after having a MCL and ACL replacement knee surgery was in the sport of boxing and not the sport of MMA, which is a sport where he made his name known at. And for his first fight versus who's considered to be the best heavyweight fighter in the world and has been that for quite a while, and to have such a close competitive bout versus who is considered by many people as the best heavyweight boxer in the world was a good look for Francis Ngannou last night. And that in itself, that he went the distance, is a impressive factor for Francis Ngannou. And for many people to consider Francis Ngannou to have won this fight is even more impressive. And I could see Francis Ngannou's future, if he keeps up his focus within the sport of boxing, then I could see a potential future that can be very bright for Francis Ngannou, despite the fact that he's already in his late 30s and he's already got a well-established career in mixed martial arts. And I'm sure he would like to continue his mixed martial arts career. And despite the fact that there's more money involved in the sport of boxing when you compare the finances with mixed martial arts and boxing, and money was the reason why he left UFC. And if he signed a deal with PFL obviously offered him a more lucrative contract for him to go sign with PFL as far as his mixed martial arts career goes. And he made the most money in his career in this fight versus Tyson Fury. I believe he made over $10 million. And depending on how the revenue looks with the pay-per-view, he's probably going to get more money from the pay-per-view buys. I don't know the whole details when it comes to the finances. And Francis Ngannou, with the impact that he made in this fight versus Tyson Fury, with this impressive, good performance that he put on versus Tyson Fury, I'm quite sure that there could be more boxing fights available for him in the future. I wouldn't say versus a name like Alexander Usyk, the current unified majority heavyweight champion, who's already scheduled to fight Tyson Fury at the end of this year. I believe the scheduled date for that undisputed heavyweight title bout is for December the 23rd. And I heard rumors from multiple sources that Alexander Usyk isn't ready for that date for the 23rd of December. And Tyson Fury, if y'all look at how he looked at after this fight, I don't know if he's going to be in shape to be fully prepared and ready to take on Alexander Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight title fight. And this would be the first ever undisputed heavyweight title fight in the modern era. So for that fight of that magnitude, I think both fighters had to be fully prepared and have a full training camp in order for that fight to happen. And I think it's untimely that that fight with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk is scheduled for the 23rd of December with what happened last night in this fight versus Francis Ngannou, and hearing the talks of Alexander Usyk not being ready for that scheduled date of the 23rd of December, then I would say for the fight's sake, to live up to the full potential that this fight has, then the date being pushed back and postponed, it would be beneficiary for both parties and for the sport as well. So I wouldn't have any complaints if this fight with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk doesn't happen on its original scheduled date. And as far as Francis Ngannou goes, his future in the sport of boxing, he did say that following this fight that he found out that he can really do this, and he looks forward to continuing his boxing career. And yesterday was definitely an indicator of him being able to be a boxer. And as I said, there's more money in the sport of boxing when compared to MMA. However, he's not going to get a payout like this if he fights a lesser notable fighter. And I think that's where Francis Ngannou can be placed at. I would say he could fight a guy by the likes of Joseph Parker, who was featured on the undercard, who's got plenty of experience. And I'm sure with the name that Francis Ngannou already has, if he was to fight a journeyman or a fighter that has boxing as a side gig, it would still draw because of his name that is already known throughout combat sports and the public, and due to the fact that he performed so well versus Tyson Fury, again considered to be the best heavyweight fighter in the sport of boxing right now. That's a added helping favor on the side of Francis Ngannou and him being a attraction if he decides to have another boxing bout versus a lesser known, lesser quality opponent than a Tyson Fury in the future. And I don't think if Francis Ngannou does have a boxing fight, let's say next year, I don't think he'll get a fight versus a fighter like Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder and names like that. I don't think he would even get a fight versus a name like Derek Chisora, a Dillian White, a Andy Ruiz. I would say if he can get a fight versus a name like Chris Arreola, Charles Martin, names like that, then I could see Francis Ngannou getting in the mix with boxers of that stature. And depending on how he performs versus names like that, we could see Francis Ngannou actually be considered a legitimate boxer that could challenge for any of the heavyweight titles. And this fight was being built as a exhibition bout. If it wasn't, then they wouldn't have Tyson Fury engaging in this fight 2 months prior to the heavyweight undisputed title bout versus the next best, or to many boxing outlets who's considered the best heavyweight in the world, that being Alexander Usyk. It's between those two, Usyk or Fury, that is the current best heavyweight fighter in the sport of boxing. And this fight, as I had mentioned before, would have been looked at least from my perspective, hence why I didn't make a preview video for this fight, because I was looking at it like the way how this fight was supposed to be looked at, and that is it being more of a exhibition money-making attraction bout for the Saudi Arabian public and for Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury to get a lump sum check. And this fight, I wasn't considering it a legitimate boxing bout. If it was, they would have had Tyson Fury's WBC heavyweight title on the line. And this fight was looked at, as I said, more like an exhibition bout, a event put on for the public out there in Saudi Arabia and for combat sports fans and the public. And I would have not been surprised if this fight ended like how Floyd Mayweather versus Conor McGregor fight ended, with Tyson Fury stopping Francis Ngannou. However, it didn't end the way that fight ended with Mayweather and McGregor. This fight went the distance. Remember that Mayweather-McGregor fight was a full 12-round fight, despite the fact that there was no titles on the line for that fight either. However, this non-title fight was a 10-round fight, and that Mayweather-McGregor fight ended in the 10th round. And I don't think McGregor could have went on any longer. I think, well, I know fatigue had to have been the reason why Conor McGregor was staggered the way he was staggered, and Floyd Mayweather knew that with the ring intelligence and the experience that he has in the sport of boxing, and the fact that mixed martial artists' longest amount of time that they compete in their sport is 25 minutes, and that's shorter than the sport of boxing and how long championship boxing fights last. And Floyd Mayweather dragged Conor McGregor to the depths of the fight where he's never fought past the 25-minute mark. Conor McGregor made it almost to the 30-minute mark, and Floyd Mayweather took him out of there because he knew those accumulation of shots, and Conor McGregor's stamina wasn't up there to compete for a full 12 rounds. However, you look at the fight with Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, that wasn't the deal for Francis Ngannou because he looked like he could go another 2, probably even more rounds than 12 rounds because he still looked fresh. He didn't look out of breath. He didn't look like he was staggered. He didn't look fatigued. And he didn't look beat up in there either. And he didn't take that much of punishment from Tyson Fury as well. And it goes to show that Francis Ngannou had a good, successful training camp. And he is, in fact, durable. And stamina isn't a problem for him. He could definitely fight past the 25-minute limit that he's used to fighting in the sport of mixed martial arts. He lasted the whole 30 minutes that this fight was scheduled for, and he could have went 2 extra rounds if this was a 12-round fight. And that goes to show that in the future, if Francis Ngannou does get himself to possibly challenge for a title in heavyweight boxing in the future, he has no problem going a full 12 rounds because his stamina is up there. And Tyson Fury, to many boxing fans, this was a disappointing performance, especially to the boxing purists, because to many boxing fans, he didn't put on a good look, a good performance for the sport of boxing versus a MMA guy who's never fought and competed in the sport of boxing before. And Francis Ngannou dropped Tyson Fury in this fight as well in the 3rd round with a quick lead hook, catching Tyson Fury off guard coming in when it was a in-range shot that Francis Ngannou landed when Tyson Fury was coming in with that 1-2 and trying to catch Francis Ngannou with that right cross. And Francis Ngannou beat him to the punch with a counter lead hook that caught Tyson Fury off guard and dropped him to the canvas. And that was a surprise to many people, including myself, because I thought Tyson Fury was going to outbox him and toy around and play with Francis Ngannou throughout the whole fight. That wasn't the case. I had this fight scored actually quite close. I still had Tyson Fury winning on my card. I had this fight scored 95-94, 6 rounds to 4 for Tyson Fury. It would have been 96-94. However, due to the knockdown scored in the favor of Francis Ngannou, I had this fight score, as I said, 95-94, 6 rounds to 4 in favor of Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, he got caught with unnecessary shots when he would get caught lunging in, when throwing his backhand, that straight right. And I thought Francis Ngannou did a good job at timing Tyson Fury and catching him with good counter shots, and his ability to telegraph the shots of Tyson Fury was impressive. And as well as Francis Ngannou having that MMA background and him having the muscle mass that he has, and the way how Francis Ngannou's body is built, it was hard for Tyson Fury to weight bully on the inside, which is what Tyson Fury is used to. Whenever the shorter, smaller fighter would be in close range with Tyson Fury's tactic would be to smother and weight bully his opponents whenever they would be on the inside, and use his height advantage as well by leaning over on the shorter opponent and putting all that weight and height onto his opponent. He couldn't do that with Francis Ngannou, who knows how to use the leverage to his advantage, with him having wrestling being a part of MMA, obviously, because that's a aspect in mixed martial arts, and Francis Ngannou being a mixed martial artist that's considered to be a top level MMA fighter, it was quite easy and natural for Francis Ngannou to counter Tyson Fury's usual game on the inside. And that's what I think frustrated Tyson Fury, because of that stylistical contrast, and Francis Ngannou opposing that problem for Tyson Fury and his usual game. And Tyson Fury had to box on the outside for him to have success in this fight. And with the surprising quickness of Francis Ngannou and his ability to time Tyson Fury's shots for him to counter shot Tyson Fury, that was also a problem that Tyson Fury faced in this fight. And however, Tyson Fury, other than, I would say, the knockdown and few other moments where Francis Ngannou had in this fight, I thought Tyson Fury landed the more cleaner, crisp shots in this fight. And if you look at the fight at its entirety, I think Tyson Fury was the right guy that won this fight. I could see why many people would have gave this fight to Francis Ngannou. As I said, this was a close competitive bout. However, I think people are caught up with the hype, with the fact that Francis Ngannou has such a good performance of making this fight such a close competitive bout versus Tyson Fury, that they overlooked the technicality and the purity of the sport of boxing, and especially when it comes to judging and officiating how a boxing fight should be scored. And I'm not making any excuses for Tyson Fury. As I said, this fight was 2 months separate from the scheduled date that is set for the undisputed heavyweight title bout with Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. So during Tyson Fury's training camp, was he more focused on the fight ahead of this fight, which is the actual fight that is in regards to his profession and his title being on the line? A undisputed heavyweight title fight, the first one ever in the modern era of heavyweight boxing. Was his training camp more based on his fight coming up versus Alexander Usyk than it being more focused on this fight versus Francis Ngannou? And what tape can Tyson Fury and his camp look at of Francis Ngannou and his style of boxing to prepare for this fight versus Francis Ngannou? They could look at how Francis Ngannou uses his hands and the boxing aspect when it comes to his MMA fights that he's had in the past. However, that's like comparing apples to oranges, because MMA and boxing are two different sports. So was training camp and the preparation of Tyson Fury and his team during their training camp, could have that been a factor of Tyson Fury's what's called and considered by many as a poor performance on the behalf of boxing's best heavyweight, according to many boxing fans and boxing public outlets and media, and the current WBC heavyweight champion, Tyson Fury? And however, that doesn't take anything away from this impressive performance from Francis Ngannou. Anyways, that does it for this post-fight video. Y'all let me know what y'all thoughts are from this fight that y'all saw last night with Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. Comment, subscribe, share, like, all that good stuff, and click the links in the description to show y'all support. Anything would be appreciated. And with that being said, I'm out of here. Peace.